everybody, and welcome to 2020. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this is Sportsbook Confidential. This little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And it's great to be back. Had last week off, had some transportation issues, but very excited. Lots of information today. I don't know if our show is going to go 30 minutes, but was able to start on time, and we're going to talk about goals for the new year and some exciting opportunities coming up. And we're going to talk NHL Friday. We've got Wildcard Weekend in the NFL, and I'm going to do my first book review today. Santa was good to me, and I've got a bunch of books related to sports betting or gaming, and I'm very excited to share what I found in those books for you. So maybe that may interest you in getting the book or dissuade you from getting it or taking it out of the library or whatnot. So before we do all of that, we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to update my bankroll as we often do here. And last time we started with a bankroll of $427. You have to remember these games were 2 weeks ago. We had the Oilers-Penguins over on Friday night, and that was a winner for us for $14 added to the bankroll. And then we had the Bills and the Patriots, the Bills plus 6.5, and I said on the show that might end up screwing me, and they lost by 7, so minus $14 to the bankroll. We had the 49ers over, and that was a win, $14 to the bankroll. And then we had the Falcons minus 7, which was also a win. That was a little heavily juiced, so it was only $12 profit. And the Broncos minus 7 against the Lions, and that was an easy winner. Another $14 profit to the bankroll. If you do the math, that's a profit of $40. That brings our bankroll to $467. And dividing by 30, as we always do here, because we're selective sports bettors and we don't bet too many games, that makes our bet size going forward for the week $16. So a little bump to the bankroll. Let's see if we can get that momentum going and get this valley out of the way and start hitting some new peaks. So before we get into our book review, I just want to take a minute to talk about our goals for the new year. And I've decided to expand my presence here. Well, here at Finger Lakes One, I'm doing the show every Friday, which I'm going to continue to do. And I love the facilities here, and I love the community and everything about it. But hopefully, I think I've budgeted enough time where I plan on doing daily live streams, and I'll have an upcoming announcement very shortly about where you could see those live streams. And of course, I'll archive all the live streams on various formats, social media, YouTube, websites, and whatnot. So they'll all be available for everybody to watch whenever they want to watch them. And it'll give you a chance to see my process in work from A to B. So things I do on a daily basis, as I said to somebody recently, I'm basically doing what I do every day. I'm just going to be filming it, a videography of it. And you can see how I come at my model. I come up with a number, and then I compare it to the lines and how I make decisions, thinking out loud or whatnot, I guess, over which games to wager and why. And I don't, it's not about picks. I don't want it to be a black box thing. Most touts, they sell picks. I don't recommend people pay for picks. But with the live stream, you can see my process in action, and you can even watch it after the fact. Develop your own process if you like it, or if you don't like it, it'll give you ideas how to do it your own way. And there's a lot of ways to do it. So, but you can see my concepts in action and my beliefs in action, and I think it'll be very exciting. So within the next week or two, we'll have a lot of information about how you can watch my daily streams, and I'm very excited to add that to the repertoire. I would like to get back to betting bigger amounts on games. The bankroll we use on the show is benchmarked with low dollar amounts to, because this show is geared towards the beginning better, and I don't want large numbers to be intimidating to people. You can have just as much, whether you're serious or fun or both, sports better, you can have just as much fun and just as much seriousness with a $10 bet as you can with a $100 bet or a $1,000 bet. It's all if you treat the process correctly and you have the right motives. Of course, if you're just doing it for entertainment, I wouldn't recommend you bet more than $10 a game, but that's just me. Other people might need that, financial incentive to have their entertainment value. I don't. You're risking something on an outcome of a game, whether it's a small amount or a large amount. It doesn't matter to me. But anyway, very interested to get more involved in sports betting online this year, and I hope you check it out, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But one of the new features I'm going to have this year, another goal of mine is to have more guests, of course. But one new feature I plan on doing this year is book reviews. Some of them will be very good and some of them will be very bad. But I got about 8 or 10 books over the holidays, and I've been going through them. And some are obviously very good, some are not. Some are very math-oriented, some are not. So I'm going to start off with this one today because it was very easy to read the sports betting section of the book, and it's not just about sports betting. So let's get into this week's review, and it's called How to Win at Gambling by Avery Cardoza. And I wish I tried to find this picture on the internet on the back of the book, but it shows this man in a tuxedo and a top hat. He looks like the Monopoly guy. And here's the book. I got a used copy online. And it was originally published in 1991, and it has been updated several times. And this version that I bought used was printed in 2010. So it's a 2010 edition. So it is after the advent of online poker and online sports betting. So obviously it's been updated to include the internet era, which is great. Now, this, as I said, I have the 2010 edition. The rules and strategies for over 50 games. That means gambling games, not football games or not sports games. It means poker, blackjack, baccarat, table games, Spanish 21, 3-card poker, Pai Gow, things like that. So it gives you rules and strategies. It tells you how the games work, and it gives you strategies to follow if you're going to play those types of games. I am not a big fan of those types of games. Obviously, they're very difficult. There's a huge house advantage in those games, so if you have a profit motive, you're probably best to stay away from them. But if you are going to the casino for entertainment and you want to play these games and not lose a lot of money, this is the type of book that you would need for that. As one of my good friends points out to me that he likes to play Pai Gow because with a large amount of ties you get with the dealer, you can sit and drink for free pretty much. At most casinos, you can get free liquor. I think at Del Lago you have to pay. But if you're playing table games. So, you can sit there and be entertained and have a slow drip of money instead of losing a bunch. But today we're going to concentrate on the sports betting aspect of the game. There is also, in this book, a section on horse racing. There was nothing hugely relevant to me in there. One of these days, I'm going to do my take on horse racing and why I would only bet certain events and certain types of wagers, and today's not the day for that. We're going to stick to sports betting. So there's only about, I want to say about 5 to 10 pages on sports betting in this book, but it was very useful, and we're going to talk about it right now. And when I got to the end of the section, the last section on sports betting, it's called 7 Principles of Winning Sports Betting, and I paraphrased these a little bit to fit them into the graphic. But I was amazed at how accurate this is to what my process is often trying to be. I don't think these are in the best order, but I'm going to read them as they were published. Number 1, public emotions over a game will yield better odds than true odds. My own example I put in there is Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Teams that are very public teams, the teams the public get emotional about, the New York Yankees, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Dallas Cowboys. Those teams, often the odds are weighted away from the popular teams because they're weighted heavier on the popular teams because there's a certain segment of the population is just going to bet on that team because that's their team. And there can be times when there's a game that's a big game for whatever rivalry, Yankees, Red Sox, whatever, public emotion runs high. And this Mayweather-McGregor fight was the perfect example of that. I don't know if any of you remember this. Conor McGregor, of course, an MMA fighter. He won 2 MMA belts, and he signed a contract to fight, to box Floyd Mayweather, undefeated boxer, in the ring. It was a complete and total mismatch. But because so many people came in and put money on McGregor, that Mayweather got very good odds. He was minus 500, minus 600. And I think the bet, it closed at minus 1,200 or minus 1,500. You got much better odds than you should have just because the public was so geeked about Conor McGregor going into a boxing match. So that's a clear-cut example of that number one there. Number 2, don't bet games with emotional involvement. And New York State kind of helps us out with this one. If we're big Syracuse fans, we can't bet on Syracuse football or basketball games here in New York State. So that eliminates that whole issue. But if you're a huge, Manchester United fan, you'd be careful betting on games involving that team because you may not be objective. And until you can really separate your emotions from the wager, which has, took me a long time, years, I would stay away from betting on teams you have an emotional connection to. Number 3, bet within your limits. I think this goes without saying. If you can't master the bankroll management of sports betting, you are never, ever going to be successful. It doesn't matter how good of a handicapper you are because there's no such thing as a sure thing. And, if you win 9 out of 10 games, the one you lost, if you did not practice bankroll management, that could have wiped out your other 9 gains and sent your bankroll down to nil. So, bet within your limits. Number 4, bet only games where you see an edge. And that is also kind of goes without saying whether your edge is qualitative or quantitative. Now, qualitative is you've watched both teams play, coaching styles, tempo, this coach is going to try to do this coach is going to try to do that. That's a qualitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is building a model, coming up with a number that you think the game should be at. And, if I think the Bills are 3-point favorite on Saturday and they're getting 2.5, well, that's a, 5.5 point difference from where I think the line should be. And then if I really feel that strongly about my model being accurate, I would bet the Bills. So, that's betting a game with an edge. If you don't see an edge in that game, the Dallas Stars are minus 300 tonight to win the game. And even if I think Dallas Stars are going to win, it's not good value to bet that number. So it's a pass. Number 5, make your own rating system to teams. That's basically building a model. Whether you do it, we've talked about this, doing a checklist. If you're doing basketball teams, this team's better on offense. This team's better on defense. This team's better on free throws. This team's better on 3-point shooting. This team is deeper. This team gets into foul trouble. You can just do a comparative list. You don't have to be a math guru to come up with a specific number. And I do my models on spreadsheets. I don't have advanced mathematical linear regression techniques. I just weight statistics as I see fit, and I've fiddled with that recipe, and I think the recipe's really good for NFL and NHL, and it probably needs some work for college football and for CFL now that the scoring was down last year. Number 6, bet process consistently, and that's, you can't give up after 2 bad weeks. You have to stick to it. I mean, I actually looked at the first show of 2019 I did here, and our bankroll was at 620. I had a losing year. I mean, I haven't given up the process. It's still going. We've had some real, peaks and valleys. I haven't really broken through over $1,000 or anything like that, but I believe in the process. And, I do this 7 days a week. I do this process 7 days a week. I don't do a show 7 days a week, but there's days when it works and you have 3 or 4 great days in a row and you never see them because on the show we only talk about Friday, Saturday, Sunday bets and only odds that are available on a Friday morning. So, do it consistently. And then number 7, be flexible in your winning approach. And I put in quotations my own interpretation, always learning and improving. And I spend probably 3 hours to 5 hours a week listening to other podcasts, reading websites, blogs, Twitter accounts, looking for sharp information. And there are people that I wholeheartedly respect on Twitter and other social media formats. And when they post something, I read it again and again and try to incorporate their concepts into my concepts. And there's, more than one way to approach winning sports betting. And I think you have to be open-minded. I think you have to stick to your process, especially when it comes to bankroll management. But I think you have to be open-minded in different ways to evaluate games and evaluate bets. And, I feel like I could have done more with alternate lines this year in NFL. I have some interesting coupling. I call them coupling bets or paired bets that I like to make on NFL games, usually involving the underdogs that usually split but make a profit. And maybe I'll get in more into that next year. It's not going to be a profitable strategy in the playoffs. I'll have to wait till next regular season. But there's new ways to learn how to attack the sports betting market. And, sometimes if you're entertainment, your goal to place fun bets, find new fun bets to place. It's just as important if you're looking for have a good time as opposed to making money. So these were all very valuable pieces of information. And it's a shame that it only took up one page of basically less than 2 pages of his book. So I'm going to reserve judgment on the rest of the book. But as far as buying this for sports betting, you just got everything good that was in there on my podcast. So if you're interested in other table gaming stuff, I would maybe give that a try. I'm sure you can find a copy online for about $3 or $4. And this man has, I think, written 20 or so books, gambling-related books. I don't know. I haven't read any of his other ones, so I don't know if they're any good. But that was a simple start to our book review club, and I hope you like that. And that was in lieu of a sports book lesson today. So we are going to move along and get right into our games this weekend. And we're going to start with the NHL on Friday. Now, the NHL just finished its Christmas break, and they had the New Year's Day game that was outdoors. And now they're back. They had 12 games last night, and they only got 2 games tonight, but tomorrow will be a lot of games. So we've got the Capitals at the Hurricanes, and these are 2 very good teams. Capitals plus 117, Hurricanes minus 129. 6.5 is the total. So it's Samsonov, who's been the number 2 in Washington, number 2 goaltender, but he's actually played better of the 2. He's 10-2-1 on the year. I feel like he's just you can get a solid performance out of him. He's been very consistent. Some days he's off the charts, and some days he's just above average. But and then you have Peter Mrazek for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he's obviously was very solid in the playoffs last year, taking them to the conference finals. So I actually feel like the under 6.5, my model, I haven't crunched the numbers for the model today, but I would guess that it would project their average goals would be over. But the strength of the 2 goaltenders today, I feel like the under is there. So the Capitals are a top 3 team. I would say the Hurricanes are probably a top 5 or 6 team. But anytime you can get a top 3 team in the league out of 31 teams at plus money, you take them. That's just how I feel in the NHL. And the Capitals, have enough offense to win every night, but they also have solid defense. John Carlson's having a Norris Trophy year, and he's, an outside Hart candidate with the amount of points he's put up. But Kuznetsov's back, and Ovechkin, and Backstrom, and TJ Oshie. And, if this game goes to overtime or a shootout, it definitely leans to the Capitals. So I like the Capitals today at plus 117 there. Then you got the Red Wings at the Stars. The Red Wings, of course, are in a rebuilding year. The Stars just played in the outdoor game in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Day. I think they could be looking past the Red Wings here. The Red Wings just beat San Jose at home. There's no value in taking the Stars at minus 316. I would think that this one actually might go over. If Ben Bishop plays tonight for Dallas as the goaltender, they may score enough goals to go over. But if Bernier plays for the Red Wings, he's been outstanding in the last month. Jonathan Bernier is the goaltender. He took a lot of shots against San Jose. San Jose killed them in puck possession, but Detroit won 2-0 basically, mostly because of Bernier's goaltending. So if it's Bernier against Bishop or Bernier against Hudobin, there might not be anything wrong with putting a little money on the Red Wings there, but I don't feel strong enough for me to place a wager on it. But that's the thought process you go through. So we'll see how my picks end up in the end here. So let's move on to the NFL Wildcard Weekend. And for those of you that don't watch the show regularly, I'll point out that the numbers in parentheses are my model picks for the game. It's how my model predicts how the game will go. Comes up with a number, and of course we use that to look for value in our wagers. So we've got 4 games this weekend, and Saturday afternoon it's the Bills at the Texans. Texas getting minus 2.5. Excuse me. And 44 is the total. My model has it at minus 1.74 and 37.82. So you look at that right away, and you can see that the model predicts it 6.5 points to the under, and that's where I would like it to be. The game, I think, opened at 39. So the fact that it's at 44 now, I bet it goes down to 43 or maybe even under 43 by the time the game starts. Now, Will Fuller is back for he's a game-time decision, but I expect he'll play. I mean, it's do or die. So he's back for Houston, so that's another threat on the field for them. Doesn't really change things for Buffalo. I feel it's more about, and J.J. Watt is also going to be back for the Texans, which is another reason to bet the under because he's a former Defensive Player of the Year and may cause the score to stay low. So there are more reasons to bet the under here than there is to bet the over. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. Bills are going to have to score over 21 points to win this game. I would say 24 points to win this game. I would be very surprised if it ended up being a 17-10 game. But I feel like this could be either a 28-7 game or it could be a 24-17 type game if the Bills win. If Houston can come out and score 2 or 3 touchdowns, this game's probably over. I'm going to be rooting for the Bills, of course, but I like the under there. And then the Titans at the Patriots, 8 o'clock, Saturday night. Patriots at home are usually pretty money. It's minus 5, 44.5. My model says minus 3.23, 42.43. So it also leans under there. I feel like the Titans are about plus 200 on the money line. And if you really believe in the Titans, that's a really good value. I just feel like Belichick is going to stuff the box on defense and take out Derrick Henry and force Tannehill to pass in the secondary. The Titans have a very undervalued rookie receiver. I think his name is A.J. Brown, and he's been really, he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. Corey Davis, I don't remember exactly who they have at the tight end at the moment, but Deion Lewis is also very good out of the backfield catching passes. So if Ryan Tannehill can spread the ball around, I feel like they should, do a lot of play action, and then take occasional deep shot. You don't want to be down 14 or 17 points and then just have to take long throws. So, if this got to 7, if it got to 6, I would maybe even consider taking Tennessee. But if it got to 7, that would be beautiful to take Tennessee there. We'll see where it goes in the next couple of days. I feel like if people lose on the early game, they're going to hit the second game and it might go to 7. We'll see. And then on Sunday, we got the Vikings at the Saints. Saints at home, -8, and then 50 is the over-under. My model has it at 50.74, minus 9.22 on the side, on the spread. I feel like giving the Vikings were a 10-6 team, and they played their last 2 games without Dalvin Cook, and they rested all their starters in the last game, so they could have been 11-5, and maybe 12-4 if Dalvin Cook was healthy. I feel like if the Vikings got 10 points here, you got to hop on that. Otherwise, the Saints -7, I would feel comfortable with that, but I get worried the Saints would be a little too conservative. If they come out and play, they ran their starters last week. They were trying to get a bye. And they come out and play like they did last week, rolling up 35 points in the first half. That's going over. I really like the over here. If they get conservative, that gives that gives you all the reason in the world to bet the Vikings at +10, because the lower the score, the more likely the Vikings are going to cover. So, but I feel like this will probably go over, even though my model has it right at 50. Especially because teams will extend games in playoffs. They'll keep trying to score touchdowns, even if they're down 3 or they're up 3. So I feel like an over is going to happen in this game. But if that line gets too big, Dalvin Cook is healthy. He sat out 2 weeks. If he can get through this game healthy, boy, the Vikings have a chance to cover. I didn't really look at the money line. I wouldn't. The Saints are so tough at home. And then finally, Seahawks at Eagles Sunday night. Eagles +1.5, 45. I have the Eagles as a very mild favorite, -0.35 and 49.33. So my model says take the over here. The Seahawks have been in so many one-score games this season. I think 12 of their 16 games were one-score games. And they won 10 of those 12 games. So it's tough to pick a side here. Carson Wentz has played so well. They had to win 4 straight games basically to make the playoffs, and he did that. And they have a skeleton crew on offense. But I feel like the Seahawks are going to pass more than normal because, number one, Marshawn Lynch, who they signed, will not be worthy of 25 carries a game. And their other active back that was on the practice squad because their starting backs had all gotten injured is a very quick scat back that will catch passes out of the backfield. So that means a lot more throws, which means less time on the clock, which means more yardage, higher scoring opportunities, leans towards the over, and that's kind of how I feel about that game. If I got 3 or over 3 on either side, I would take that side. That's kind of how I feel about this game. I expect it to be closer. I expect Carson Wentz to, if they need a drive at the end of the game, I expect him to come through with points. We'll see what happens. Stranger things have happened. So you just make your best guess and go with it, I guess. That's what we do here. So let's wrap things up, and let's get to my picks. On Friday night, I've got the Capitals tonight, money line +117. I love they're definitely the stronger team in overtime or shootout, so that's more reason to bet them, other than the fact that I expect them to be competitive pretty much every night. Bills and the Texans under 44, -109. As I said, my model has it at about 37.5. So that's 6.5 points difference. So I don't think, the Bills defense is going to keep the Texans under. I don't think the Texans are going to score 30 points in this game, and I don't think the Bills are going to score 25. So, we'll see how it ends up. Seahawks and Eagles over 45, minus 101. Again, the model likes that over, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of passing in this game. There's not going to be much running. I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to establish the run, and I don't think the Seahawks are going to have enough personnel to run as much as they would like. And then finally, I'm going with an alternate line. I'm using my first alternate line in 2020. It's the Vikings and the Saints, where the line is over 50, I think, is plus 101. I'm taking over 52 at plus 140. So you can, if you look at the alternate lines at your sportsbook, you will see you can buy this up to 53.5, but I felt like that was the best odds for the number. My model has it at 50.7. So you just need a couple extra points. So that's a 2-point conversion or a field goal or a safety. And that's, almost a unit and a half for your 1-unit wager. So that's not my sharp way to take advantage of alternate lines, but I feel like that's the best bet on that game that I could find this morning. Of course, lines will change over the weekend, and maybe there will be other opportunities. So I hope you find those. I hope you watch the games and have fun. And thanks for tuning in, as always. I appreciate the fact that you've stuck with me for now almost 16 months, and we'll have some new fun stuff this year, and I hope you stay tuned for that. So I'm going to play the outro music for you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.